That is because we don't have a dedicated.
What, I just did talking?
Yeah, that's it. You just did talking. All right.
And nothing happened.
No, nothing happened.
Oh,
but
Lord.
it's happening now. So.
Okay, let me go back.
Yes.
James Arness dies at 88. He was the guy from Gunsmoke.
Okay.
Okay, with, Miss Kitty and Chester.
Right.
Sorry to see him go. Also was an avid surfer. I got this note from nephew Bill.
Okay.
Who's an avid surfer also. Cancel Russian defense system in order or lose out on the F-35 jets. The U.S. has warned Turkey.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that's interesting about this, the United States has told Turkey, or actually the Turkish government, that it will not receive its purchase of F-35 fighter jets if the Turkish government goes ahead with the deal to buy the Russian missile defense system.
Yeah.
Well, duh. I mean, of course, there's two things to consider here.
Right.
One is you can bet that the whoever makes our F-35 is going to damn sure going to find a way to sell a couple of $1 billion worth of F-35s to Turkey, no matter what.
Okay.
I think that's probably what's going to happen. It's too big a deal. I mean, what we do, we sell arms. That's what the United States does. If you think that whoever makes that, I forget who's McDonnell Douglas or whoever makes
one of those three,
yeah, that makes the F-35. But he said, if you buy the missiles, which I guess are capable of shooting down an F-35, because the F-35 I think is supposed to be semi-stealth. And what they're worried about, what the United States is worried about, is compromising the stealth capabilities if you give that technology to Turkey, and that way then they'll relay that back to Russia, and they'll modify their S-400 missiles or whatever to be able to shoot down a plane like the F-35s.
Right.
I mean, whatever. So it would begin deliveries. The Russians have announced, deliveries of S-400 air defense systems in 2 months following a long-running conflict between the U.S. and Turkey about the system's compatibility with the F-35. As I just said, the U.S. has warned that the S-400 is considered a threat. And our guy says Turkey's procurement of the S-400 will hinder your nation's ability to enhance or maintain cooperation with the United States and within NATO. Well, I've said for the last months and months is that Turkey is not exactly I don't know what it's doing in NATO. They're no friend of ours. I think the only reason is we still got this huge base there. I mean, Turkey borders Russia, for God's sakes.
We've got nukes there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We've got nukes and we've got this huge base, and it's a jump-off point for invading Russia,
right,
or something, or attacking them. So this is one of our surround the thing. Interestingly, I just thought I was watching a thing. I'm going out on a branch here.
Okay.
I was watching what's his name, Stone's The Real History of the United States, Untold History of the United States. It's a thing you can binge on Netflix.
Okay.
Now he's a guy that is how can I put this? I won't say he's liberal, although he probably is. But and some of this bingey thing, there's some mistakes in it, because he's looking at it from a different angle on penalizing the United States for some stuff. But some of the stuff's good, but you have to sort through the wheat and the chaff. But one of the things in the Cuban Missile Crisis was, at the time, we had missiles in Turkey pointed at Russia, and during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And so what happened was, in order to avoid an atomic war, which we came right within, a day and a half or an hour and a half of doing, was we agreed to withdraw our missiles from Turkey in order so that the Russians would withdraw their missiles from Cuba.
Okay.
So, but apparently we got them all back.
Yeah. Well, my first thought when I see a news story about military distribution of arms is, there's no way I know what's going on in that situation.
Yeah.
There's got to be several layers of back and forth there. I mean, who knows what kind
There's a back channel to the back channel?
Seriously, and there's back channels. There's got to be. So, to me,
the deep state is virtually exposed compared to the really deep state.
Seriously. I mean, that kind of, who's going to tell me whether or not some F-35s are going to be sold to, I mean, that, to me, that's like, it just seems like some kind of
it doesn't seem quite fair. Because it seems like if you had enough money, if you're Jeff Bezos, you ought to be able to phone up and say, hey,
Yeah.
Let me have one of them M30
Well,
F-35.
I'm totally down with that. On another branch, when you talk about guns,
Right.
To me, why shouldn't the average citizen be able to have an F-35? You know, you're not going to do anything crazy with it. Nobody's going to go straight for city. Well, it's just not going to happen. First of all, anybody who could afford an F-35 is not going to take the chance of ruining their entire life to go strafe some city. I mean, they would be shot down in a minute and whatever else.
Oh, yeah, right.
So,
suicide by F-35.
right, and that's what it would be. But look, you don't know who's in charge of the F-35s today. There's F-35s flying all over this country right now.
Well,
and we don't know who. There's some 17-year-old kid.
I think we've already sold a bunch to other countries. Also.
Okay. Well, but what I'm getting at is we don't know who's flying them over the country. We assume they're in, nice order chain of command, and
right.
it goes all the way up. But anybody in that chain could theoretically order some kind of horrific attack, right? I mean, if Colonel so-and-so from, and I don't know, maybe a military guy's gene, if the colonel called up and said, scramble the F-16s, bomb Jacksonville right now, would they do it? I would think, yeah.
Well, there's two things to consider here.
But
one is the movie, the documentary called Dr. Strangelove.
yeah.
That was in the early '60s. That was made, and of course the rogue guy up in Alaska.
Got it right here, actually.
Is that right? That's a great. It's totally one of my favorite movies. And but the other thing is, of course, when you say, would you? There are so many movies made when the order's been given.
Right.
And somebody says, no, I'm not sure about that.
And look, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of fail-safes. All I'm trying to suggest is that they're not any better than
well, I love when George C. Scott says, well, it does seem that the chain of command has dissolved, or however he put it, this isn't quite worked out this time.
right, exactly.
But you can't fault the system for one mistake.
That's right, one mistake.
That's the whole squadron of bombermen for Russia.
So, well, the second thing I think about this is, Turkey is in NATO. Why wouldn't we sell them the F-35s, get the missile thing, and then we send our advisor over there to check on the missile thing? Hey, we'll help you out with missile defense system. Yeah. And here, just let us put up a couple of drones and test the capacity, and then adapt our things the same way. So I mean, if there was a chance of technology leaking, I would hope that technology would leak our way more than it would Russia's way out of Turkey.
Who knows?
But yeah, again, who knows? But go ahead. All right, what else we got?
2020 candidates call out McDonald's over sexual harassment. Yeah, right. In a letter being sent Tuesday to the chief executive, a group of 8 senators, and of course these are the 2020, these people are running, led by Tammy Duckworth of Illinois, the home state of McDonald's, decry unsafe and intolerable conditions and unacceptable behavior in the chain's restaurants. The group includes 2020 contestants and the usual suspects. I'm not going to name them. The fault McDonald's for sending the wrong message about its priorities by merely encouraging its franchises to adopt new policies rather than requiring that they do. So it's just interesting. The requirement business is really a hoot, I think. Of course, one of that thing is, as it always does, is it opens you up to suits. Because once and we've talked about that last week about the cake guy, and he's being sued for God's sake. I mean, give me a break. Workplace harassment at McDonald's and other organizations was going on long before these presidential hopefuls jumped on the bandwagon. And of course, it's just about the election. I mean, that's all it is.
Yeah, this seems to me to be clearly grandstanding.
Oh, no question. Okay.
Like, we all eat at McDonald's, and it's not like a well-known thing that sexual harassment is like McDonald's brand or anything. So I'm confident that there are plenty of incidents because they have tens of thousands of employees.
Right.
I'm sure that they're all settled at a civil level. Why?
Of course they are.
And so, you sue, you either win or you don't.
Well, and so you slap the guy's hand away. I mean, I don't know.
Well, look, depending on the level, I mean, all depends. If you get raped in the back by the cook or something, and he's a known sex offender,
I think we would have known about that.
Well, look, those things happen. That's why.
Well, now here's the other thing: is as soon as they start requiring stuff like this, how long do you think it's going to be before they're replaced with robots?
What the workers?
Yeah, they already are to some extent.
Well,
there are places already where you do the little window thingy, and it ends up like Horn and Hardart in 50, 60, 80 years ago, where you then you go pick it up. There's still some back office people, but if you think for 2 seconds that if you start whining about all this stuff, or if people start complaining, that they're going to just, well, what are you talking about?
But this just means it's a non-issue.
No, it is a non-issue.
We've never heard of this before.
It says here it's a typical non-issue is what this article says. Yeah. Typical non-issue. Just anything, the diversion trick or whatever.
We're going after McDonald's because they're a big company.
We're for people. Yeah, we're for the poor people.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Vice President Mike Pence has defended the Trump administration's decision to prohibit U.S. embassies from flying the rainbow pride flag on their flagpoles during LBGQXYZ month. I did not. I knew we had a Black History Month, but I did not realize we had a LBGQ.
Man, we got months for everything.
I know, but this over. Every day is something, as you know.
Yeah.
Probably, this is broad day.
And
or
every
whatever.
month is something.
I know. Right, and every month is.
They haven't divided up the weeks yet.
No. Well, no. You'd be. Oh, no. Of course.
Teacher Appreciation
They
Week.
have no. They have the Easter week and stuff like that. They have.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying.
So anyway, the real story that the embassies were told not to fly the gay pride flag on the flagpole at embassies, but it was welcome to be displayed someplace else. What happened apparently in some embassies, they took the gay pride flag and put it like in the window or something.
Right.
And apparently that was all right. So the thing about it is, when you start to, this is on the flagpole.
Yeah.
Where you have the American flag.
Right.
And so now you've run up there underneath the American flag.
Yeah, right.
And you have the gay pride flag.
It's on top.
Well, you're right. Yeah. I like it on top myself.
That's right. That's
right. But the thing is, it does, as all the comments said, it does seem to single out for favorability on foreign soil one segment of the society. It's inappropriate when you figure this is a little piece of the United States in a foreign place, and of course there's some places where you better not do it anyway. Some countries.
Well, that may be. I mean, that to me would be a reason more to do it. Like fly that sucker up the pole in Saudi Arabia.
Sucker?
Well, yeah.
Excuse me.
In Saudi Arabia, man. That now. See, then kind of poke them in the eye a little bit, but. I'm going to have to agree with you on this one. From my perspective, you don't put any other flag on the American flagpole. We don't put the state's flag up there. We don't put the Boy Scouts flag up there. We're going to put the AARP. I don't care how good your group is.
As one wag said, my favorite team are the, is...
Right, exactly.
Put the NFL flag up there.
That's it, because it's NFL month or something. Look, no, okay? It's one pole, one flag, United States, okay? And maybe there's some kind of, you want to run the flag of the country that this place is in, the French flag for the French.
I'm sure they do. I'll bet you anything they do that.
Okay.
And as I say, if you have a little tiny flagpole over here, now of course the flagpole could be shaped like a
right. And that would be fine, from my perspective. But this is them just trying to rile up the troops against Trump, I think.
Well, along the same line. Backlash proposed over a straight pride. They went up in Boston. The straight pride people have said, "Well, we want to have our march."
Yeah.
And days before Boston's Pride Parade fills city streets celebrating the LGBTQIZ community, another parade proposal is causing an uproar on social media. John Hugo is the president of a group calling itself Super Happy Fun America, SHFA. Now, it should be Super Happy. No,
yeah,
okay.
right.
I'm trying to get the acronym there. His goal is to create a straight pride parade. We want people to be aware that it's not only one side of things, and people that are uncomfortable with a lot of things that are going on in our country. And of course, the gay pride people said, "Well, straights are welcome to march in our parade. You don't have to do that." So,
anyway. I'm sure gays are welcome to march in the straight parade.
Well, except they're not going to have the straight parade.
Oh, they're not?
No, that was...
I thought Milo Yiannopoulos, the gay guy, was going to be he was voted the governor or something?
No, he was
chairman of the...
Something, but they said
shut it all down?
No permit.
Right, yeah.
No permit for that. So that's, you have to get a permit for everything. You have to go get a permit for a permit.
Well, actually, you don't have to get that.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, who's issuing this permit?
That's right.
Okay, now the next thing we get onto the debates.
Okay.
It's fascinating. Of course, it's a Democratic debate, and you'd expect that the questioners are going to be people that are totally unbiased, such as Rachel Maddow, Savannah Guthrie, Lester Holt, and Chuck Todd are going to be the moderators.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now these guys, I don't know if you ever watched Rachel Maddow. Of course, she's a hoot.
Yeah.
But she was Russia for over 2 years.
Sure. Well, she's the Rush Limbaugh of the left.
Right? Rush Limbaugh, that's right.
That's right.
So we got Russia, and as far as she was concerned, it was a given that Hillary didn't. Well, of course,
yeah.
What you do is you go onto YouTube and watch her election night coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Hey, whatever.
Yeah. But I just thought that given the large number of presidential candidates, NBC plans to hold 2 different debates on June 26th and 27th in downtown Miami. 10 candidates. Now, there's like 22, I think, running now. Okay. So there's 10 each, so 2 of them now are not going to get out of here, right. Having Maddow moderate is like the Republicans having Rush Limbaugh moderate one of their...
Yeah.
She's a journalist in the same way that Goebbels was a journalist.
I don't know about that, but...
No, well, it's always Hitler. No matter what happens, you're always 1 degree away from Hitler. It happens all the time. It will be a night of bashing President Trump, and they never discuss how they'll fix the real issues. So the Democrats interviewing fellow Democrats. Here's one of the comments. I'm shocked. I'll bet the first question will be, what's your favorite color?
Something like that. Because, look, this is going to be a home run derby. This is going to be softball after softball. And, I have some questions.
We're talking about lobbing.
Oh, it's going to be like, since President Trump is such an asshole.
Right.
Yeah. Well, how do you vow to kick his butt? And then I have a few questions. I would like to know, it's been interesting to see the word count between the questions and the answers. Because I expect huge setups for these questions.
Like they do in Congress when they question.
Right, exactly. Given that the healthcare industry,
you only have 5 minutes and 4 minutes for the questions.
Exactly. Do you agree? Yes or no? That's what it's going to be.
No, you're right.
And then my thought is also you could do a drinking game on this one.
Oh yeah.
With the words like fair.
Okay.
Oh my God, you're going to get killed with fair or the American people.
Okay.
Can you imagine how many times the American people is going to come out?
That's unprecedented?
Unprecedented. Yeah,
no,
that's right.
No, the problem is, what you're a little nervous about is you better have your ambulance to the hospital for alcohol poisoning on speed dial.
Yeah, totally. For this one, man.
You're going to be out.
It's interesting that I'll be interested to see if they actually ask anybody questions like, what's the difference between your healthcare plan and your healthcare plan?
Right. Well, of course, and you do understand that they've only got like a couple of minutes each one.
Right.
When you have 10 people up there on a 2-hour debate,
right.
do the math.
Yeah.
You're not
nothing.
And
there'll be a couple people who get one question or half a question or something.
Half a question, yeah. And then of course, that what's going to be fascinating to me, and what I just love about on some of the Tucker Carlson, for instance, when he interviews somebody who's a kind of a lefty, they have a little script, they have a talking point,
right?
And they just will not shut up,
right?
He's still asking the question.
And back to the war, the thing that I'm concerned about.
You just sit there and
speaking of healthcare, the war in Iraq.
Absolutely. No, when you think about it, it is a real hoot. When you see, that they're going to have a little thing here, with maybe a little 3x5 card or something. Now, the other with their little talking point thing that they're just going to spew out, no matter what the question is. This is what I'm going to talk about. Right. This is me, and it'll be fascinating to watch that go down the pike and see how many, as you say, the drinking game, how many of them overlap. Yeah, that'll be a hoot.
It's going to be a little crazy. I'm also a little interested to see. Here's what I think. Look, this is not going to reveal anything about the candidates. If you want to know about the candidates, go watch one of the long interviews. Like Joe Rogan interviewed Yang for 3 hours.
Oh yeah,
3 hours. You want to know what Yang stands for? It's on there.
Yeah.
And I think he did Tulsi Gabbard or
might have done
somebody else. And
she's coming up.
So
her claim to fame, besides being the socialist, is she's anti-war, which,
right.
As far as I'm concerned, is great.
I'm with you. From my perspective, she would be the best candidate from the left on a lot of issues. But she's obviously still pro universal health care,
right.
and I think she's even universal basic income.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
But just the fact of her being anti-war is enough to make me like her.
Yeah. Well, of course, Trump was sort of that too, and then he went the other way, and Obama was, and he went the other way.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it wasn't. I forget, somebody came up with some statistics on what happened at the beginning of somebody's reign, or when they're in office, and the end. And Mr. Peace Prize, for instance.
Well, yeah. Well, look, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And when you look over Obama's 8 years, I don't know if we started any other wars. He kept them going. He didn't end what he said he was going to end.
Somebody said that his was the first administration ever where the war was the entire administration.
Right. I just don't. I think he was a little bit feckless on the whole international issue, on the whole international scene. We're
good to see you. I balance
exactly, and it seemed to be what did my advisors say? All right, well, the prudent thing to do is to do this, and we're going to continue whatever it is. It was never, and even when he was faced with the red line in the sand, no, we're not going to do anything. He's Mr. Look, he is a go along to get a guy president. Get along. That was Obama the whole time. So, I mean, for me, he just got pushed around from an international perspective. Trump. I think he's engaging everybody, and he seems to be pushing back a little bit here and there. We haven't gotten involved in anything else. We seem to have scaled back a little bit more. It's not much though. Should have
been out of a couple places.
Oh yeah, for sure, sure.
What was that I was talking about the other day? That there's somebody else that's been saying that it was either Afghanistan, or might have been Afghanistan, where we're still got more troops in there, or maybe it was Yemen. No, Yemen is Saudi Arabia. But see, I get them all confused. But the point is that during the campaign there was the idea that we're going to pull back some, and apparently now the war on terror has ramped up. Now we have a new ISIS. We'll talk about that later. Okay, Guantanamo inmate rejected by Supreme Court on 17-year detention.
Speaking of a lost promise, I remember when Obama got elected, he said, "I'm going to close Guantanamo Bay," and I applauded and said, "All right." I wrote a thing on my website that said, "Promise fulfilled on blank date," and I was waiting to write that in there, and I was going to write a follow-up paper about how he kept his promise and everything. Couldn't do it. There's still 40 lousy people in Guantanamo.
Really?
40 lousy people. We've had this thing open. And here's what kills me about Guantanamo. The audacity of some general to come forward and say, well, we can't do this on American soil.
Right.
But if we go down to some other country, then we, Americans, can do it. As if that saves us face.
Right.
And we're not doing it on our soil.
Right.
You're still doing it.
Yeah.
And so to have people in custody for 17 years without a trial or anything like that is so un-American.
Well,
and it is a stain on our entire record in terms of human rights. I would shut it down, let them go. I mean, the problem is, of course, they'd be instant celebrities wherever they went to. But there's 40 of them. How much damage are they going to do? You're going to go back and rile the troops up with 40 people? And I guarantee you half of them would disappear because they'd spent 17 years in freaking custody already.
Yeah. And they come out here. A cell phone, what's that?
Exactly.
Basically, for 17 years since being captured. Anyway, this guy was captured in Pakistan, near the border of Afghanistan. And he argued that the government's, this went in the Supreme Court, he argued that the government's power to detain people as enemy combatants had expired, given that hostilities in the region had largely subsided. So, I mean, the court should set limits on perpetual military detention, Alawi argued.
Yeah, like none.
Right.
And the court just caved like they've been doing for decades now to the executive.
The case centered on the reach of the 2001 law. This is obviously because of 9/11,
right? And
that authorized military force against Al Qaeda and its supporters after the September 11th terrorist attacks. The Supreme Court ruled in 2004 the measure that authorizes the president to detain enemy combatants as long as the conflict lasts. So the conflict goes on forever. I mean, you can always say that there's still a conflict.
Well, that's what the case was about. Was there an official cessation of hostilities?
Right. Well, that's
but
yeah.
It's unfortunate that the case would attempt to turn on something so far away from what it should turn on, which is illegal detention without any due process, whether or not they're on American soil, they're in American custody. And why wouldn't you?
At least he wasn't in some secret rendition black place.
You mean like a secret CIA operation? Yeah, well, and who knows how many of those we've got, and what the people are doing over there, and how much we're spending on that. And
cheap.
I don't know. I mean, it could be zero.
Speaking of the High Court, the High Court has been thrust into the 2020 election as the term nears its end. Now, you do know that there are going to be like 20 or so rulings that have been cooking in the Supreme Court since first Monday in October, and we've got like a little over 2 weeks left, and so there's a flood of these rulings that come out. Now, of course, the two that everybody's looking for. One is the gerrymandering, and I forget what the other one was.
It's the citizenship on
citizenship on the census question. Okay. However, think about it. There are 27 cases that are to be resolved in the next 3 weeks. Now, some of these cases, I believe, are going to not resolve, but I think there's some cases that they've said are going to go into next year.
Oh, okay.
But whether the Constitution permits a 40-foot cross that serves as a World War I memorial in Maryland at an intersection.
So, because it's a religious symbol?
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
Whether the federal government can refuse to grant legal protections to trademarks.
Oh, this is the. And I got a gift for this. Yeah. So, to me, the answer is no. Whoops, that's not the right gift. To me, the answer is no, because of stuff like this. This is the bottom of a Nike shoe. You'll see if you turn this upside down on this image on the left upside down, it spells something, but upside down. And if you cut out the center of it, it kinda looks like the bottom half of the symbol for Allah here on the right. Okay. And so one can imagine, look, as soon as the trademark people get involved in making judgments about what the trademark symbol looks like, you're done.
What do you mean the trademark people? You mean the courts? Right.
What they're trying to rule here is can the trademark people use their opinion about the trademark itself and say you can't have that symbol because it's offensive or.
Well, this particular one was from a clothing line, known as FUCT.
Right.
And so
whoop-de-doo, look, man, that's going to fall or rise on its popularity. You don't have to worry about it, Trademark Commission. And I don't want them involved in that kind of decision, because then they might exclude something like this. They might tell Nike to go back and redesign its shoe because upside down on the bottom, a mid portion of it resembles the bottom half of the Allah symbol.
Well, of course, the other thing is that this gets to the point where it's very subject. I know it when I see it.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's go to the next image I have here. Remember this one?
Yeah.
This is Batman, of course. Right. But do you remember the outcry over this one?
No. Because it looked like something else.
Yes. But what does it look like? What's the other thing?
It looks like a batleth.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. No, apparently, if you squint and close your eyes, it looks like the open mouth of a child with rotten front teeth, or somehow misformed front teeth. The protrusion. If you look at the yellow as teeth, and the black as the whole of the mouth.
So I don't see that at all. What I see are two testicles hanging over tits.
Well, exactly. that's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. As soon as you get involved in this, things like that happen, and then you're like, well, wait a minute, what how, huh? And so the American Dentistry Association or somebody complained to Batman or somebody, and it's just like, come on, man. Get over it and let the logo stand or fall.
Imagine Batman is offensive. Of course, this also.
Right.
You remember the Starbucks for a while was offensive because it had a Satan thing.
Oh, right. She was in a pentagram or something.
I can't remember what it was, but it was a symbol for some kind of Antichrist.
I think she had a pentagram around her or behind her or something.
The girl. But anyway, so anyway, it would be kind of interesting to see. if they get that. Also, whether to overturn a ruling that requires judges to defer to regulatory agencies when they interpret their own regulations.
Right. Now, this is to me a huge deal.
That's a huge deal.
This is an old case. We've talked about it a couple of times, and when this one comes out one way or the other, we'll cover it because it makes a huge difference whether or not the courts are going to abdicate their responsibility to the administrative agencies.
Yeah, because the legislature already has.
Right. Well, yeah.
You know,
take it.
I mean, they even did it. They did it even starting with the Constitution, with the 14th Amendment or whatever. And Congress shall be empowered to make laws to enforce this thing. I mean, you know, in other words, what was spelled out in the 13th or 14th Amendment was the first time it said that Congress shall be able to enforce this thing by passing laws.
Yeah, that particular clause is contentious in constitutional law.
I guess it is.
Well, it's because people don't. The precedent goes both ways. That is, there's a question of when you enact a law, does it become enacted right then, or do you have to specify a time frame, or do you have to get a specific power grant to do it, or is a general power grant okay? And so that's why they put that clause in there to make it perfectly clear that Congress had the power to enact laws on that particular amendment, as if it wasn't clear already.
Right, that's the thing. I mean, when you look at the other amendments, they're pretty clear right off the bat. Of course, they're not. When you look at something like the right to bear arms, and boy, talk about an argument about that. So,
yeah,
I mean, there's and Congress will have the right to make some laws.
Right.
Whatever. No.
Didn't say that.
Well, they did it anyway. Yeah. So anyway, then let's see whether to expand constitutional protections against double jeopardy.
Right.
By scrapping the decades-old doctrine of, if you don't do it in the city or the state, then the feds can still get you for the same thing.
Yeah, now to me, this is a no-brainer. It should be absolute. And also, it should extend to the president's pardon power. Unfortunately, I think this is what this is about. This kind of seems to be about whether or not Trump might have the ability to pardon himself after the...
That's what it says here. This could have implications to reach the Trump's pardon power. Yeah.
Right. And I think it should. I think it would and should. I mean, it's not going to, because the courts rule on very narrow grounds, and they're not going to expand anything. They rarely, I shouldn't say not going to, but they rarely go out of their way and create a whole new areas of power.
Yeah.
But occasionally they do. So I don't think they will in this case.
We're going to find out in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Within the next 2 weeks. Okay, moving on to the international scene.
Okay.
Yemen's Houthi rebels launch attack drones into Saudi Arabia. Now, Yemen, of course, is absolutely the poorest country in the Middle East you can imagine. They are dirt. They are goat poor.
Well, they've got their per capita GPA is like 2,500 or something.
What? Really?
Yeah, their economy is about the size of Idaho's. It's $78 billion economy.
Really?
Yeah, but they're as big as Texas. It's a 200,000 square mile.
Yemen?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's humongous.
I know that they're bored. They claim that Iran is also helping them against.
Right.
For some reason, that's one of the. Certainly, the Saudis, of course, have been bombing the crap. The Saudis have got our F-35s, I think, and they run in there and bomb the crap out of them. So the Houthis apparently. What they've been doing is the same thing that the Palestinians have been doing. They send the drones over and bomb some places. So
right, and literally the origin of it is the same thing. If you go back and look at a map of Africa and the Middle East before World War I, you will see that everything was owned by the Brits, the French.
The
Germans had some. Even the Portuguese.
Even the Portuguese.
Okay, but there was it wasn't like a kingdom of such and such or whatever. Everything was divided up by the major powers. And then, of course, after World War II, a lot of that sort of the decolonization movement happened, and they gave all those things back, and they named them all different stuff or whatever. Right. Well, that's less than 100 years. These people are still figuring out what's going on, and Yemen has been an unruly place for centuries, for millennia. Right. Really, it's not in a good spot. And so, I mean, for what it tries to be, and again, it's large and not that populated for being that big. Right. So.
Well, it is interesting. I was looking. Apparently the Saudis intercepted 2 drones launched by the Houthis the Iranian allied Houthis increasingly have targeted the kingdom with bomb-carrying drones. And I thought, this is amazing that this technology has come along for basically this country, which is a nothing thing, has got drones that go over there.
This is model airplane technology, though. This is ordered off Amazon for $100. Okay. Stuff your C4 in there, and the only question is, how far can you make the drone go? And of course, right now the range is quite limited.
Right.
And that's really the only.
We're going to talk about that in just a second here.
Right. Well, yeah. And to me, that's really the only thing that's holding back a wave of drone warfare.
Well, as we've always said, it would be with the kind of money you're talking about. When you figure there's millions of dollars spent on, I don't know how much one bomb is or whatever it is, or a missile or whatever.
Yeah.
But when you can think that for $1,000 you can get yourself one of the nicest drones you can possibly imagine. So for $1 million, you're talking about
1,000 of them.
You're talking about 10,000 of them, okay? And
$1,000 and 1,000 times.
Okay, whatever. 1,000 times 1,000 is $1 million. Okay, yeah, 1,000 of them, right? So you get 1,000 of them, and you launch them all at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Shoot these down.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it reminds me a little bit of. Have you ever seen the birds or the fish that all fly in a flock?
Yeah.
And so suddenly you have 1,000 of these drones.
And you know what their defense is to predators? Numbers.
Right.
They don't even care. They know some of them are getting wiped out.
That's right.
It's just a question of, we're going to have so many. Go ahead and take a few.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's going to be the same thing when 1,000 drones take off from different places and swarm and converge on something, just dropping bombs and stuff. That's going to happen. And
I remember, speaking of that, I used to chase balloons. The big.
Oh, we all did when we were kids. Oh, the big ones. Oh.
The big ones. The big ones were the and what one of the games that they had is called. Wasn't Fox and Hound. It was I forget what they would do is in the middle of some field they would put a pole up, maybe 30 or 40 feet, and put some keys to a car, brand new car on top, and then all the balloonists would go out and had to go out at like at least 5 miles, I think, and at least 5 miles, and then you would take off. And you would steer your balloon, and they would all be coming in and converging to see if they could get the keys.
Oh, geez!
And I'm serious. And you literally, I remember watching people. I'm surprised more people didn't die from this.
Yeah.
Because you would see the balloon would come literally within 6 feet, and they'd be reaching out.
Yeah.
And they would just miss it.
Yeah.
Now a friend of mine did get a car.
Oh wow.
Yeah. They got close enough. But I'm telling you, talk about. We're talking about 50 balloons coming in and converging more or less on this one pole. So.
Yeah, well, it's going to be some wickedness when the AI is controlling the descent pattern in a they're swirling around and stuff. Oh man, and
yeah, good luck. Yeah, that's right. And we're gonna talk about that here in a second too, because when you think about it, how much trouble is it to put an avoidance sensor on this thing, so that if it sees a problem, it dashes out of the way.
Right. No, you're gonna have to kill them with either EMPs or super high-powered lasers, or just I guess the 50. A minigun would do pretty good. Just you just take them out.
There'd be that interesting you should mention that, because the next gun to come along. For my way of thinking, would be a Gatling gun that only had 22s.
Oh right, yeah.
So
all you got to do is touch it.
Yeah, so you could have. You could have a Gatling gun. This round that'd fire 10,000 rounds a minute.
Yeah.
And so, just as long as 22s, because that'd take the damn drone out.
Yeah.
That's what they count on now to take out.
Those miniguns are so fast already.
Oh yeah. Well, have you seen the ones that they have on the ships that are supposed to take out a missile? Mm-hmm. And there's just a swarm of these bullets. But those are large bullets.
But it's hundreds a second.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, man, they're flying out of there. The rate.
The next thing we have, let me just think here. Conflict in Yemen. I'm not going to worry about that anymore. Okay. Brits.
Okay.
Record field of Tories bid to succeed May as UK leader. Now this is shades of the US voting thing, whatever it is. There, a record 10 British Conservatives will fight each other for the chance to lead their party through the country after the race to become the next Prime Minister formally opened. Now, one of the things that's kind of interesting about the Brits is first of all they're all they all want to run the go up on succeed May, but what is interesting in Britain, they only got a couple months or something. I mean, this is not a 4-year plan, right?
Right.
It's
like
almost they have snap elections, maybe 2 months after I forget what it is, but all the candidates agree that Britain has to leave the European Union. But when it comes down to exactly how to resolve the Brexit crisis that brought down Theresa May, there are almost no specifics. On Brexit, Hunt and Gove, whoever these people are, indicated they will be open to extending Britain's membership in the EU beyond October 31st. Now, the question is there a hard exit, a soft exit, no exit, whatever it is? But once you keep extending this thing, I mean, I don't get it myself.
Well, we've talked about it. Like, it's only one extension so far.
Okay.
So, and the voices, there are a lot of prudent voices over there still who are saying, look, it's either a deal or it's not a deal.
Right, deal or no deal.
That's it. And so, and I think those voices are powerful enough. I don't see how you get around it otherwise. You can't do a do-over. You can't just extend it indefinitely. Either the laws mean something or they don't.
Well, you do understand that the Prime Minister is elected, I think, by Parliament.
Okay.
So in other words, it's not like a presidential election.
Right.
Although the Prime Minister is an awful lot like a president, but it's not a general election for all the UK.
Okay.
It's just these however many hundred.
That's why they can do it so fast.
That's
probably.
right. That's exactly why they can do it so fast. Whoops. Now, speaking of drones, Amazon says drones will be making deliveries in months.
Yeah, we talked about this last week with the hexacopter, right?
I think we might have. Amazon said Wednesday that it plans to use self-piloted drones to deliver packages to shoppers' home within the coming months. On the online, oh great, here comes our rain. The online shopping giant did not give exact timing or say when, but it has previously said it was going to be in months. It has to worry about paragliders and power lines and a corgi in the backyard, so the brain of the drone has to be safely covered. Wilk said the drones will be fully electric and can fly up to 15 miles in 30 minutes and carry up to 5 pounds.
Okay, so there's your range.
There's your range. And it says like a paperback or toothpaste. Well, I don't think anybody's going to be using a drone to deliver a tube of toothpaste. But 5 pounds is a little bit. It's something depending on what it is.
But yeah, you can do a lot with 5 pounds. Like you said, look, it's going to be medical emergency stuff first.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And also, I would imagine that they would create what I've heard they would do before, which is you make like a beehive. And then you can have relay stations.
Right.
You have a little beehive tower that sticks up in the every 15 minutes, and every how many miles did it say? 15 miles, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So every 10 miles you have a little tower where it can pull in and juice up again, and then take off again.
Good luck.
What?
They have enough trouble putting up cell towers. Everywhere they
right.
So
okay, and look,
you have to get.
They'll be further apart than that very soon. So nobody will put those towers up now, because what's going to happen is the battery technology is going to change rapidly.
Think?
Well, I'll tell you. I'm about to do a science update.
Okay.
Since we're here, okay. So there is a new. Not new, but a company has announced that by 2020 they're going to be mass producing a new capacitor based on carbon nanotubes.
Wow.
So the benefits are 3 for this.
First of all, you can charge them up almost instantaneously.
That's the one.
That's the thing. Capacitors. I mean, if you ever had fun with, I remember when I used to have these oil-filled capacitors that would hold a phenomenal amount of juice, but you could charge them up in less than a second. Just put your DC on there and then charge them up a second. And of course, what was funny, they held a lot of power. And one of the things that I always had fun with these was I took one to school one time, and you short it out with a screwdriver, and literally the screwdriver would melt onto the terminal.
Wow.
That's the kind of juice that would go through. I mean, we're talking about 50 or 100 amps out of this little capacitor. Now, of course, it would discharge in a nanosecond. But now the thing is that to manage the discharge, okay.
And their concept is they're going to be able to do it.
Right.
And so you're going to be able to recharge your phone in 10 seconds. You plug that thing in, just boop, and that's it. You're
I'm with-
recharged.
yeah.
And if that works for cars, of course, then there you go.
Yeah.
Now, the problem right now that they have with it is the bleed off. It loses 10 to 20% of its power per day. So it's a short-term use thing. You got to power it up and then use it and then repower it up and then use it again. The good news about that is extremely durable. 1 million potential recharges without loss of power capacity. So blows away lithium
It's interesting
batteries.
you talk about the bleed off because capacitors generally, regular capacitors that discharge in nanoseconds, they'll hold a charge forever. I mean, a long time because
that's what the problem.
Because it has to go through the air. They don't internally go down, but I know that electrolytic capacitors do.
Okay, Mr. Techie.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, forget it. Okay. Moving on.
Well, wait a minute. One more thing about them is also they're extremely temperature resistant. They can be used in extremely high and extremely low temperatures without loss of power. So we're talking about new battery technology coming soon. If that projection holds up, that could be a serious game changer.
Game changer. The other thing, what was interesting, I thought, the last line in this little article, as always, Amazon had been working on drone delivery for years. Back in December 2013, he told us on 60 Minutes show, he said, we'll be flying drones to customers' houses within 5 years. Well, would have made it 2018. The deadline passed due to regulatory hurdles. So that was
yeah. Well, we talked about that last week too. FAA approval.
Yeah.
They've got monopoly power over it right now. So
yeah. Okay. So anyway, the next thing I looked at, artificial intelligence is coming. Will Congress be ready? Mm-hmm. And I thought, is this a joke? I mean, Congress.
They're always ready.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, Congress is not exactly artificial intelligent. I mean, the stuff they do is a joke. It can help trace missing children, but misidentifies people of color. This is artificial intelligence. And detect cancer, but it may recommend the wrong cure. It can help track criminals and could aid foreign agencies, enemies in targeting voters. You know, this would be the.
Yeah, it's a tool, which means it's going to have good uses and bad uses.
Right. But I think it, of course, is artificial intelligence. And it could make decisions much like humans do. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. You look at Congress, we look at some of the decisions those people make. They're lunatics.
Well, what they're talking about.
The lunatics are in charge of the asylum. And these are the people that are going to regulate AI. I mean, give me a break.
Well, I mean, we'll see if they do anything. They haven't done squat for the internet at this point.
Not that they're not trying.
Right. Well, I don't think they're really trying. They could have clamped down on it a bunch of different ways. I mean, taxes is the way that they'll.
It's always about the money. Yeah,
right,
I know.
Right.
I know that. I mean, there are countries, China and some other countries clamp down on portions of the internet.
Yeah.
Because.
So I've been reading a little bit about general AI, and the people that I was reading are saying it's further off than people say it is.
Really?
Yeah. The specific AI is coming along quite nicely.
Okay.
And so you can have a computer program designed to do a particular task, and it's getting good at that. But just general awareness about everything is that's a weird road, and you have to have a lot of different systems. As you know, the brain is made up of several different systems, types of thinking, and they all coordinate. It's weird, and it is still beyond our capacity a great deal. I'm not sure that the singularity is approaching quite as fast as Kurzweil was saying it was.
Well, but it's only a decade away.
According to him, yeah.
Yeah, according to 29 was when it was going to be. So anyway, one of the little problem was I thought this was kind of cute. Along the same thing, they traced children with the facial recognition is coming along. One of the little minor problems is the American Civil Liberties Union tried this out and on members of Congress, and it incorrectly identified 28 members of Congress as having been arrested for a crime, disproportionately picking out African American lawmakers, including civil rights icon John Lewis. And of course I'm sitting there thinking, well, wait a minute, that wasn't so incorrectly. He'd been arrested 24 times. I
There you go.
You know, you talk about jail time. I mean, of course, that's all during the civil rights thing, and they went out to get arrested back in the 60s.
Right.
But my say is that obviously
There's an arrest record.
Yeah, there's an arrest record. Right, so
picked it up.
It wasn't incorrect at all.
Right.
Okay, the last item I've got here. Let me just hear, and we're going to get to your stuff. I thought we talked about this. We didn't talk about this. There was a big hoorah about a week or two ago about this girl who shot a giraffe on a hunt.
Yes.
And it was a black giraffe or something like that. Now, of course, this is one of those sponsored hunts. She'd pay a lot of money, and she was pilloried for this on social media. And her response was, "Hey, you know, I ate it. It was delicious. It was delicious. You know," and she had no remorse, no nothing. And I mean, they were all over her like this. Okay, and it was interesting because now right down the road here, 2 giraffes were killed by a 1,000,000,000 lightning strike down here in Lion Country Safari.
Really?
Yeah. It says here Lily was between 14 and 16, while Gioni was between 10 and 12 feet, according to the Lion Country Safari spokeswoman. The giraffes were not related. Okay, that's important. Recent pathology results confirmed the giraffes did pass as a result of lightning, and the manner of their passing was instantaneous, she said. But I thought it's kind of interesting because, you know, one of the things you want to do is get out of you don't want to be the highest thing.
Right. Giraffes may not be well suited for Florida.
You know, if you have lightning storms, I'm thinking to myself, you know, now
soaking wet 20-foot tall tower.
Exactly. And so I'm sitting there thinking, this thing came down to just gazappo.
Yeah.
You saw about the one guy that got zapped on I-95 or whatever.
Yeah.
Or was it on 95?
Yeah, you should.
But you know, that's wet and high.
Yeah.
And the people from Lion Country Safari did say there wasn't much they could do about it, but the giraffes do have a cage.
There you go.
And I guess
nice metal cage.
A Faraday shield. I don't know.
Well,
my point is that it's terrible, but God did it.
There you go. What are you going to do?
I would say you want to get on social media and condemn God for killing 2 giraffes when this girl only killed 1 and ate it.
Well, and a couple things about that. First, your chances of being struck by lightning are 1 in 13,000. I just read, which I thought it was more than that. I thought it was less than that.
That means you're going to get struck by lightning.
But your chances of survival are 90%.
Okay.
So that's not bad. And then
of course, you might have some drain damage.
Yeah. I mean, when I say survive, yeah.
Jack Nicholson survived the lobotomy.
Right, exactly. But the black giraffe, and we talked about this before real quick, as what I've heard is that the black giraffes are the elderly ones who can no longer breed. They're the bulls, and they will kill young virile males if they're left out there. So in order to maintain the populations, the older black giraffes have to be killed. Otherwise, they'll kill all the breeding age males in the area.
I did not know that.
And so the tribes, as you say they sell the hunt for big cash. They get to keep the cash, and they get to keep the majority of the meat. As you figure, this thing is gigantic.
Right.
She's only taking home as much as she can carry.
Right.
And they're getting the rest.
Yeah.
And then so. Look, it seems to be good news all the way around.
Sure does.
But
it's just you know, this is why when I talk to people about this all the time, so many laws are based strictly on emotion. And so you see the boys around the girls in there.
Well, if you don't know anything about giraffe hunting, I could.
Right. No, that's right. And when you read, when you dig down, and of course how many people are going to hear about that story except the ones listening to us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I heard it on Joe Rogan, so he's got a good following.
Okay, good.
He's a hunter, so he knows. I mean, I'm taking his word for it. So.
Okay, we're coming towards the end here.
Okay, no problem. Let's see. One real quick update I thought was interesting. Scott Adams was talking, or Peter Schiff was talking about the New York Times article. We talked about Mexico, the one about whether or not Trump had actually made a deal with Mexico.
Okay, right, yeah.
So, and he did a pretty good job at convincing me that there might not have been anything there. That is to say, what's really changed? What's really happened? There was a threat of some tariffs, and then that was removed, and there's still an immigration issue, or is there not? I mean, there is to some extent. So, I mean, I think something has happened there, but he laid out a pretty good case for Trump doing this, threatening the tariffs, watching the stock market, getting scared, and then thinking, you know what, I'm just going to take that back. I'm just going to take that back right now. And so making up a reason, saying, we got a deal. I got a deal with those guys down there, so that kind of a thing. All I'm suggesting is that it's a possibility that I didn't.
You're trying to read people's minds.
I know. It's a little deep, but yeah, it's something to keep in mind. Lemonade stands are now legal in Texas.
I saw that, and what I thought was well, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, just Greg Abbott, the governor there, has a new shtick where he goes online and he talks about a bill he's about to sign, then he signs it and shows you. And so he signed 2 I saw this week. One was about making sure kids could do lemonade stands, and the other one was about free speech on college campuses.
Well, I put a little note on that little thing there on my Facebook page. It's a sad day when the government, remember now, when the government grants you a right
I know.
to sell lemonade,
That's
they
right.
can take it away.
Well, and just the fact that they have to.
Right, that's the other
rights
thing.
to kids.
Exactly. I mean, what are you talking about? This never should have come up in the first place.
Right.
Nobody ever. The fact that the city or the county or whatever it is would actually have the cojones to send the cops out, armed to the teeth.
Right.
To 8 and 10 year olds, but even if it's a 25,
and Timmy and Susie are at it again.
That's right. Well, but here's the deal. I haven't read. As I recall, I took a look at the bill.
Scalping people.
I think it's like there's an age limit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I believe there's an age limit. In other words, if you
You're 13.
for instance, if we went out,
right?
Father and son went out
lemonade stand.
Yeah, lemonade stand. That's right. Mm-hmm. You don't qualify for your lemonade stand.
Right.
Just
we identify as 10-year-olds.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah.
And this was interesting. I have no idea the veracity of it or anything, but John McAffee or however you say it,
McAfee, yeah.
He came out and said this week that he has terabytes of secret information about our government that he's been collecting for years, and he's going to start revealing it a little bit at a time, and that if he disappears, that it's going to all be released in a giant cache. Now this is bigger than the release of the WikiLeaks giant dump. So there's a potential information bomb and or an information trickle coming from John McAfee. So
if anybody can do it, he can.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, you have to understand, this is a guy who was the first guy to put the what do you call it, the anti-protection stuff or whatever, antivirus, and the and he did some for the original IBM PC. He did a disk of stuff.
Yeah, he knows his code.
He knows his code. That's for sure.
That'll be interesting to see.
So we'll be seeing. That's right.
Now this is another interesting story. I got to push back on. We've covered Desmond is Amazing before. You remember him?
Nope.
He's the little kid who sort of acts like a trans kid.
Oh, right, yes, the 12-year-old.
Everybody's promoting him, and he's in dance videos, and all this kind of stuff. Well, I watched a little video on Desmond, and the kid is actually incredibly smart and well educated about fashion. He started naming off fashion designers that he was inspired by. He named half a dozen people off the top of his head, and just kept going about the different styles and influences and all this kind of stuff. What I'm getting at is that it's possible. Look, it's possible that the kid is just doing his thing and not being exploited by these adults. I mean, the danger.
He's exploiting them.
Well,
if he's
more or
making
less,
money.
exactly.
I mean, you're going to be kidding me.
He's making cash. He's doing his thing. He doesn't seem to be disturbed or anything. I mean, it was a short video. And what you worry about, of course, is that they sexualize him in some way which emotionally disturbs him for later in life. That's what you worry about. Somehow. But look, I gotta think. All I'm saying is that if you watch a video of the kid, he sounded a lot better and a lot more in the zone that he's presented as being in.
Why am I not totally surprised? Because I mean, you look
I
at
was
stuff
surprised.
that the media. Well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I'm not really surprised what you just said, and the reason is this, because it reminds me a little bit of that video where the kid from Parkland stood up to the Indian.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all they showed you.
Right.
Well, then the backstory was, wait a minute. A minute.
So you're saying what I saw was just
the backstory. This is really what happened. You know, they first came out and said this is horrible exploitation, blah blah blah. But then you go look a little deeper, you delve down into it, and you find out, well, wait a minute,
He's doing fine, making money.
Yeah.
He's educated about his thing. He's into fashion. I don't get the impression. I mean, like I said, a 1 minute video, but it didn't seem like they were pimping him out or anything like that. You know, it seemed like he's into fashion. So I'm interested to see how he turns out in the next few years.
Okay.
So
We'll keep you posted.
all right, I already did tech update, so that's it.
Okay.
All right. Hey, sorry about the crazy beginning, everybody. You missed our intro. Of course, today's Jimmy Doane Show, 4 o'clock Wednesdays and Sundays. Today's the 12th of June, and we were live, although without audio for a couple minutes, but
We made up for it.
that's right. So these tracks brought to you by Kevin MacLeod. We thank Kevin for letting us use his tracks. This has been the Jimmy Doane Show. We'll see you next time, Sunday at 4 o'clock.
Oh, you know,
If you're in the Tampa area, well, all right. See you soon.
I left off some things.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we'll get them next time, I guess.